Good day, and welcome to the Hindustan Zinc Q4 FY20 earnings conference call. As a reminder, all participant lines will be in the listen-only mode, and there will be an opportunity for you to ask questions after the presentation concludes. Should you need assistance during the conference call, please signal an operator by pressing star and 0 on your touchtone phone. Please note that this conference is being recorded. I now hand the conference over to Ms. Preeti Dubey from the Investor Relations team. Thank you, and over to you, ma'am.
Thank you, Aman. Good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining us for Hindustan Zinc's fourth quarter and fiscal year 2020 results call. Today we have with us Mr. Arun Misra, our Deputy CEO, and Mr. Swayam Saurabh, our CFO. Mr. Arun Misra joined our management team in November last year from Tata Steel and has been an integral part of our executive committee. He has a diverse experience of 31 years, and we are very excited to have him with us. Mr. Misra will begin today's call with an update on business performance, and then Swayam will present financial performance, after which we'll be happy to take your questions. Over to you, Mr. Misra.
Good evening and a warm welcome to all of you. I hope all of you and your families are safe and maintaining all precautions against spread of COVID-19. It is certainly a very difficult time for all of us. We are doing our best to steer through the unprecedented challenges set out by this pandemic. Our focus is on keeping our people and physical assets safe, operating mines and plants with minimal workforce to sustain metal supplies to our customers, and most importantly, supporting communities around us via our active outreach programs aimed at providing food, PPEs, sanitation, and all other necessary support in order to help them overcome this crisis. Nothing is more important than the health and safety of our employees, including our contractors, and we have implemented extensive protocols to safeguard them at workplaces as well as residential colonies. Our CSR team has taken the lead to prepare and protect our communities through our extensive grassroots network and mapping of vulnerable communities with an emphasis on delivery of essentials like dry ration, ready-to-eat meals, and safety masks, sanitation drive in villages, and doorstep healthcare through mobile health vehicles. We have provided support to district health administration with PPEs and hypochlorite solutions covering towns and villages we operate in. We are also proud to have contributed rupees 101 crore to PM Care Fund and rupees 5 crore to Rajasthan Chief Minister's COVID-19 Mitigation Fund. All our sites are currently operating and ramping up. We are back on our feet in a fairly short period of time post the suspension of operations in late March after COVID-19 lockdown was announced. We restarted a couple of our smelters and Jawar mine from April 8, and by mid-April, all our smelters and mines were operating except Rampura Agucha, which restarted from April 20th onwards. Initially, capacity utilization was low, less than 25%, and gradually ramped up, and by the end of April, mines were at 40% utilization, whereas smelters were at about 80%. As of today, I am pleased to inform that we are operating our mines and smelters to 80% to 90% of capacity, even though we don't have full workforce. Despite COVID-19, we had a very good quarter and a strong finish to the year. All our mines achieved high production rate during the quarter and were headed for record production before the lockdown began. Due to fewer days of production in March, mine metal production fell short of the target. However, I am pleased to share that we maintained a run rate of over 1.13 million tons throughout quarter 4. Hence, despite the lockdown and lower production impacting April and May performance, we are confident of delivering good performance during FY21. We continue to share the wealth generated from our operations with our shareholders. Earlier this month, we declared an interim dividend of 825% or rupees 16.5 per equity share, amounting to rupees 6,972 crores, which has been paid out. This dividend implies a dividend yield of 7.6% based on average closing price during last financial year. I am delighted that all major projects in our mining with expansion to 1.2 million ton per annum were completed during this quarter. The expansion, which started in 2013, quadrupled our underground mining capacity from about 300 kilotons to 1.2 million tons per annum. During this time, we not only increased capacity but also upgraded our mines in terms of safety practices, automation, connectivity, and productivity, as well as made our operations more sustainable through reuse of waste and water, improved metal recoveries, and ensured our R&R maintains a life of over 25 years throughout this growth journey. During the year, we focused on upgrading our resources to reserves through increased drilling activity, and I am pleased to report that we have significantly improved our ore reserves during the year, which have increased from 92.6 million tons to 114.7 million tons over the last 1 year. We replenished all the ore that we consumed, and total reserve and resource has remained unchanged at 403 million tons with a metal content of about 32 million tons. We continue to maintain mine life of over 25 years. I would now like to speak about our minor metals initiative. Minor metal extraction from smelter residues offers an innovative opportunity for us to recycle our waste to generate wealth. We are treating our smelter residues to recover contained metals, namely copper, lead, zinc, silver. We expect cadmium recovery plant to be operational by Q3, followed by raw zinc oxide treatment plant before the end of the year. The fumer plant is set to be commissioned in Q1, which will be a game changer not only in terms of high silver recovery but also in elimination of jarosite. We have been successful in replicating the river's ancillary ecosystem at Chanderiya, where a plant for copper sulfate production from our smelter residues was commissioned in April. We will be completing the PFK treatment plant at Chanderiya this quarter to recover zinc, copper, and cadmium sponge. These projects have enabled recovery improvement of 0.35% in zinc, lead, and silver, while we are constantly evaluate newer technologies for other mineral extraction. Coming to market update, base metals including zinc and lead were impacted by COVID-19 at the outset of late January due to lockdowns and consequent slowdown in manufacturing activity in China, which accounts for about 50% of global demand and supply of base metals. Zinc prices declined sharply in Q4 to touch multi-year lows. The pandemic pushed zinc prices to below $1,800 per ton, which then picked up in May on fundamental support. In our view, at the current prices of about $1,950 per ton, about 15% of high-cost mines may not be able to maintain positive cash flows, which is likely to lead to translate in production cuts, supporting future prices. Furthermore, more than 25% of global annualized zinc supply has been impacted by lockdowns and workforce curtailments due to COVID-19. In several countries across the globe, plans to restart mines or resume normal production have been pushed back due to restrictions and short-term actions. Therefore, global zinc mine production is expected to witness contraction in 2020. As per Wood Mackenzie, mine production is expected to contract by about 5% this year. However, we believe there is a risk of further downside given the ongoing situation. On the smelting side, Chinese smelters resumed production toward the end of March. Those smelters in the rest of the world have been impacted by manpower issues. With the constraints in mine supply, it is expected that smelters will also cut output, which was reflected in spot TCs tumbling in China from $300 to $150 per DMT at the end of April. The last few weeks have seen weak demand for metals, and zinc is no exception. Steel companies are gradually increasing their production, and there are green shoots in demand uptick, with manufacturing picking up in China, auto plants in Europe restarting production, and US auto plants expected to restart from first week of June. We believe that zinc metal supply will match up to demand over the next 2 quarters, and while warehouse stocks may have trended up recently, zinc prices will find support from lower mine and smelter production expected this year. Now an update on operations. During the quarter, we had 10 fewer days to production due to lockdown related to COVID-19. Despite that, our mine metal production increased 2% year-on-year and 6% sequentially to 249 kiloton on account of higher ore production and better ore grades. For the year, our ore production was a record 14.5 million tons, while mine metal production was 917 kilotons, down by 2% year-on-year. The impact of operation shutdown due to lockdown on mine metal production in Q4 was an estimated 34 kiloton. Including this lost production, we would have met with our guidance of 950 kiloton for the year and delivered 2% year-on-year growth. Rampura Agucha operated at 4.5 million ton per annum run rate for the quarter and produced 3.9 million tons of ore for the year, an increase of 18%. Jawar has also been an exceptional performer, producing 3.3 million tons of ore for the year, which is a year-on-year increase of 14%. Sindesar Crude Mine has done well both in terms of grade and volume during second half of the year before exiting slightly below last year's level. RD and Kayad mines operated at close to their respective EC limits. We have now received environmental clearance to increase ore production at RD mine from 1.2 to 2 million ton per annum and ore beneficiation from 1.2 to 2.5 million ton per annum. This will also allow us to increase production from RD in the current year. Integrated metal production for the quarter was 221 kiloton, down 3% year-on-year and up 1% sequentially, with zinc production at 172 kiloton and lead production at 49 kiloton. For the year, integrated metal production was 870 kiloton, down 3% year-on-year. The impact of shutdown on metal production was an estimated 27 kiloton, which would have translated in sequential and year-on-year growth of 13% and 9% respectively for the quarter, while financial year production would have remained unchanged. Dariba lead smelter resumed normal operations after 2 quarters of lower production as temporary operational issues were resolved. Sequentially, lead production was therefore up 20%, but it was down 7% year-on-year due to fewer days of production. For the full year, lead production was lower by 8% to 181 kiloton on account of both these reasons. For the full year, zinc production was 688 kiloton, down marginally by 1% in line with availability of mine metal. Silver production improved 12% sequentially to 168 tons as lead production improved and also recoveries were better, though it was down 12% from a year ago due to fewer production days on account of lockdown as well as lower lead production. For the full year, silver production was lower by 10% to 610 tons due to lockdown, lower lead production and lower silver grades partially offset by higher silver recoveries. The impact of shutdowns on silver production was an estimated 5 tons. Coming to our growth projects, we have reached the end of 1.2 million ton expansion as all our major projects are complete. Rampura Agucha shaft is now fully commissioned and ore hauling has started via the shaft. This will allow us to deliver over 5 million tons of ore from this mine as the shaft is ramped up in the current year. The 2 backfill plants at Jawar and the Fumer plant at Chanderia are also complete and we expect them to be commissioned in this month. We are in the process of upgrading the underground shaft at RD mine from 0.7 to 1.3 million ton per annum, which will be done over 2 phases. In the first phase, we will upgrade the shaft to 0.9 million ton per annum in the current year, and in second phase, it will be upgraded to 1.3 million ton per annum in the next financial year. With an expanded EC, the upgradation of this shaft will lead to significant volume improvement and operational efficiencies. We are conceptualizing our next phase of growth to 1.35 million ton per annum and finally to 1.5 million ton per annum. For this, a detailed life of mine planning and feasibility study is currently being done by renowned global experts and we expect their report in the next 3 months. I am quite excited about this new phase in our company, which will create substantial value for our stakeholders. Before I hand over to Swayam for an update on financial performance, I would like to comment on our annual production guidance. These are unprecedented times with a lot of uncertainty around lifting of restrictions on people and goods movement as well as demand recovery. We are therefore deferring guidance for FY 2021 to the end of Q1. Our focus is on sustaining our normal production levels and active cost control to overcome the pandemic. Now our CFO, Swayam Saurabh, will provide an update on financial performance. Over to you, Swayam.
Thank you, Mr. Misra, and good afternoon, all of you. Revenue from operations during the quarter was 4,391 crores, a decrease of 6% sequentially and 20% year-over-year. Our financial performance was dented by decline in zinc lead LME by an average 11% from prior quarter and an average 19% from a year ago as COVID-19 outbreak spread across the globe. Silver prices were steady, declining only marginally sequentially and up 9% from a year ago. The turmoil in market due to COVID-19 pandemic also lowered premiums that we earn on our metal sales, while rupee depreciation aided our realizations. Zinc-led sales volume improved sequentially, while they were slightly lower from a year ago as lead volumes were lower. Silver sales were lower in line with the production. For the full year, revenue from operations was 18,561 crores, down 12% YOY, on account of average 12% decline in LME prices and lower volume, partly offset by higher silver prices and rupee depreciation. Zinc cost of production before royalty for the quarter was $997 per ton, improving by 7% sequentially and higher by 4% from a year ago. COP benefited from better grades, lower employee expenses, lower mine development expenses and lower input commodity costs, while repair maintenance costs were higher. Power generation costs were flat sequentially and higher from an year ago despite lower coal cost price due to 50% increase in electricity duty which was implemented from July 2019. Acid prices were lower during the quarter on account of weak demand, leading to lower acid credit. We came very close to meeting our COP guidance of $1,030 for H2, against which we have reported $1,037. COP for the year was $1,047 per ton, higher by 4% from a year ago due to higher mine development expenses and repair maintenance costs, lower grades and volume, lower acid credit, higher electricity duty, partly offset by lower coal cost. The resulting EBITDA for the quarter was 1,961 crores, and for the year it was 8,849 crores. Both lower from last year's comparable period, primarily on account of lower LME and lower volume. Sequentially, EBITDA was lower mainly due to lower LME. Net profit for the quarter was 1,339 crores, a decline of 17% sequentially and 33% YOY. Besides lower EBITDA, net profit was lowered by higher tax rate. Investment income was higher sequentially on account of mark-to-market gains, but lower from a year ago due to lower rate of return despite larger corpus. For the full year, net profit was 6,805 crores, down 14%, wherein the impact of lower EBITDA and higher depreciation and amortization expense was partly offset by higher investment income due to higher rate of return and higher corpus, and lower tax rate due to one-time reversal of deferred tax. Depreciation was higher due to capitalization of completed projects and amortization increased due to higher overproduction versus last year. Our cash balance at the end of March 2020 was 21,616 crores. We have paid an interim dividend amounting to 6,972 crores this month, which will lower our cash balance. With this, I open the floor for questions.
Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, we will now begin the question and answer session. Anyone who wishes to ask a question may press star and 1 on the touchtone telephone. If you wish to remove yourself from the question queue, you may press star and 2. Participants are requested to use handsets while asking a question. Ladies and gentlemen, we will wait for a moment while the question queue assembles. The first question is on the line of Anuj Singla from Bank of America. Please go ahead.
Thank you very much, sir. So one question regarding the guidance on the capex side. While you have deferred the guidance on the production growth side, on the capex side, what kind of capex should we be expecting for FY21 and maybe some color on FY22, given the growth pipeline which you have?
The growth capex for FY21 will be lower. Our focus is on conserving cash, and most of our growth projects have completed. So it would be significantly lower. I would not put a number to it because we have deferred guidance till end of Q1, but we are looking to conserve cash.
Okay. And regarding our 1.2 million, target, now in this quarter as well, if I annualize the run rate, this is seasonally the strongest quarter. Even if I annualize, it will still be around 1 million tons. Obviously, there was some loss of production on account of the last week. But when can we see that run rate factoring to any of the quarters, the 1.2 million tons run rate, which we have been targeting for quite some time?
Yeah. So we have commissioned all the projects of 1.2 million. And as of now, we have been impacted by COVID, as you have correctly said, in the month of March going into April. And also we are looking at it day-to-day situation in the month of May. But I have full trust that we have the capacity to demonstrate. And it's a matter of time that it will get demonstrated in any quarter's performance going forward.
Okay. And sir, lastly, sir, yeah, sorry. Go ahead, sir.
If you take out the 10 days of lost working in Q4, for the quarter we have been hitting a run rate of 1.13.
Okay. And sir, lastly on the cost side, now with the shaft having been commissioned, obviously we should be expecting some cost saving going into the next year as the shaft at Rampura Agucha ramps up fully. So is there some kind of color you provide on in terms of maybe dollars per ton, what kind of number we could look at?
Yes, absolutely. Cost because of shaft and otherwise as well is our key focus. We are looking to see, we are targeting a cost reduction of at least 5 to 10% from current levels. Partly would come from operational efficiency, which is via shaft and others. But also, we will take advantage of weakening commodity prices globally.
And sir, so this 5 to 10% will be on a base of 997 or the 1050 base, which we have done for the full year?
It would be on a full year base because some commodity savings are already in. So it would be better to look at from a full year base.
Understood. Thank you very much.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Amit Dixit from Edelweiss. Please go ahead.
Yeah, thanks for taking my question, sir. I have a couple of questions. The first one is again on cost. So out of your total cost of production, how much would be, what percentage would be fixed cost and what percentage would be variable?
We have given an input earlier, about 35% of the total cost will be pure fixed.
So 35% would be fixed, right?
Yes.
Okay. And in this quarter, we saw manpower costs coming down significantly. I mean, I joined call a little later, so maybe you would have given it in your opening remarks. But is it the trend that we'll see, or was this quarter, was there some one-off in this quarter?
The manpower cost reduction is largely due to one-off, which was essentially the provision reversal which we did on account of performance pay since we stopped operation towards the end of the March. However, we also expect manpower cost trending lower, and we expect this to be between 190 to 200 crore a quarter going forward.
Okay. My last question is on essentially your capex, your projects. So, if you look at Fumer, if you look at some of the other projects, the initial timeline in the last quarter was given February, but now it has been given as May. So, any specific reason for that? Are you kind of, timing it with the market conditions, or is it the general delay in the project that you encountered?
So if you recall, we would have commissioned the Fumer in the month of March, beginning of March, but the COVID breakout happened in Wuhan, from where most of the experts were to come. It happened only towards the end of February. And we took precautions around ourselves that how do we ensure that our people don't get affected. Moreover, the first set of flight bans and people were stopped coming, it also happened. So to that account, our expert visit got delayed. However, we have made up by online commissioning of the facility, and throughout the March, we provided connectivity from China into the working systems of Fumer, through which, and with the guidance from there and with the local help, we could commission the plant, and we have done some cold trials, and we are in a position of startup of the Fumer towards the end of this month.
And what about the backfill plant at Zawar? The earlier, guidance was February 2020, but now it has been extended to May.
So most of the cases are when there's a final commissioning are concerned towards the end of February, it was slightly delayed to beginning of March. But then again, we could see people getting restricted, people not visiting at site, and then finally lockdown. So now we expect that plants to be commissioned again by the end of this month. When I think after 25th, site restrictions will be lifted, and we will see people coming in.
Okay, so this May would be, the kind of is the kind of deadline that we should expect. It is not likely that it would be moved further.
Normally, such projects would not be a 0-1 kind of a status. So if we say end of May, maybe in the first week of June.
No, that's fine. I mean, so that's okay. Okay, thank you so much, and all the best.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Pinakin Parekh from JP Morgan. Please go ahead.
Thank you, sir. So 3 questions. So first, a quick clarification that when you mentioned that the mines and the smelters are operating at 80 to 90% utilization, is the underlying capacity at 1.2 million tons or 1 million ton, which was earlier?
So with the mines and capacities that we have planned on a daily production level with the number of people that are available there, at that current level compared to last year, we are at about 80 to 90% capacity.
But if you were to annualize it, what would it work out to? Will it work out to the 0.92 million tons of production that we saw in F20 or the 1.2 million tons for which the expansion projects have been completed?
If you look at it, right now our focus is on holding the production and stabilizing it. There are two risk factors. One, the people are less, and that has an impact on certain aspects of production, which in normal conditions would not have happened. Second part is we are also struggling every day to ensure that during these operations, none of the workmen who are on the ground are detected COVID positive, and a huge amount of checks and balance checks and procedures have been put around that. And through this, we are only now focusing on how do we come up to full utilization of the capacities that we have. And we will see at the end of Q1, we will be in a better position to give a guidance as to what would be the annual number that we look at.
Sure, sir. So my second question is that one of the reasons that has been attributed for the higher mined metal production is better overall grade. Now, grades have been cited as one of the big problems over the last few quarters. Now, can you give us more color if the weakness in the overall grades is behind us and this grade should sustain, or it is too early to say what the grades look like for the next few quarters?
We reported a grade of 7.9% in quarter 4, and going forward, we expect the grades to be in the range of 7.5% plus minus 0.5%.
Okay. So to that extent, this Q4 may not be sustainable going forward. This is probably the best of the grades we can expect.
So I think grades will keep on, the primary focus in the grade would be to get the maximum silver out of it, maximum zinc out of it, and to that account, the mine planning is being done in a way that we sustain the good grades that we achieve year on year.
Sure, sir. So moving on to lastly silver, right? Silver production has been down on a year-on-year basis because of the low grades at Sindesar Khurd and Kayad mines. In the weak lead production. Now, sir, what is the outlook for lead and silver in particular? Because silver is tied to lead, and lead is not a Rampura Agucha product, but more SK and Kayad product. So, how should we look at it going forward in terms of lead and silver production outlook?
So, overall, if you look at it in the SK production, primarily because of the lockdown, we had lesser lead production, which has contributed to lesser silver production. Mm-hmm. And as far as the grades are concerned, there is no inherent grade reduction of silver in SK. It is more of a sequence of mining, which is determined primarily by the geotechnical conditions as we encounter in the stope that we open up. So it's a factor of time. and there is nothing on an inherent degradation of ore or anything like that.
And just to add to that, our SK silver grade improved to 128 ppm. And we also exited the year with quite significant WIP inventory. So we think silver production should pick up in coming quarters.
Understood. Thank you very much.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Indrajit Agarwal from CLSA. Please go ahead.
Hi, sir. Thank you. Two questions. First, on your cost, ballpark, how much of your cost is dollar linked and how much of your cost is rupee linked?
Approximately 40 to 45% of our cost is dollar linked, primarily driven by coal.
Primarily driven by coal. So when we talk about this 5 to 10% reduction, this is on dollar basis, right?
Correct.
Okay. And the second question is of the capex, of the growth capex to arrive at 2 million tons. How much of it is still pending?
So versus original plan, we are looking at about 100 to 120 million additional cash flow to happen before we complete our current growth projects.
Sure. So, and to arrive at 1.5, what will be the incremental capex for that?
So as Arun mentioned in his speech, that study is currently undergoing, which includes life of mine planning and design. We will have a better view of this in 2 quarters.
That is helpful. And in terms of inventory, what is the kind of inventory that we have of mined metals that we can convert into refined? Any color on that, or we are running neck on neck?
The mined metal inventory we exited on higher side simply because operations stopped abruptly. So we exited with 35 KT of MIC, while a normal MIC level would have been close to 20 KT.
Sure. Thank you. That's all from my side.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Vishal Chandra from Emkay Global. Please go ahead.
Yeah, thank you very much. So my first question is with respect to your manpower costs. You mentioned that you are at 80 to 95% utilization today at both mines and smelters, despite a sharp reduction in your manpower deployment. So somewhere down the line, is there a strategy to make this kind of a permanent reduction in your employee costs, employee workforce, and increase automation?
So pursuing higher productivity is a constant function of any business performance, and we are no exception. So we will be, and with a huge amount of mine digitization and equipment which are much more automated, investment in automation in the fixed assets, we would pursue higher productivity. So that is a constant factor, but it has nothing to be taken as a fallout of the current deployment. Current deployment is mostly towards deploying a lesser footfall in the mines and factories to ensure social distancing and to ensure that the disease doesn't get into our factory areas, and our health and safety of the employees are our primary concern.
Got it. So, the second question was slightly related to the same. Despite the challenges faced from the COVID front, we are back to about 90% of the capacity utilization. And we are still saying about that 15% of the global supply base can get impacted in this year. When we are seeing China already recovering and a lot of other countries are also opening up, probably don't we expect that some kind of productivity gain or some kind of a smart work culture will also come up there the way we have adopted, and the 15% supply impact may actually come down to just a 5%, and we may end up with a surplus in the same year as well?
So as we look into the future, so there are various expert opinions on going in both directions. One opinion says supply will be muted, and other opinion says demand will be muted. Now, fortunate part of this COVID outbreak has been it has not happened all over the world at the same point of time in the similar manner. It has varied impacts in various geographies of the world for various reasons, which the experts are now trying to figure out what could be the reason of lower test rate or lower test success rate or lower infection rate in various countries. Now, China went through it first and come out of it, and if I look at China today, they are targeting a higher growth rate, which their steel plants are all coming up full steam in a month's time. And if that happens in China and in USA, the government is pushing for opening up faster than what it was anticipated earlier, and then there the economy is also bound to rebound by June with about the elections coming in. And Europe, the worst part of Italy and Central Europe are over, so their auto sectors are supposed to look up. And in India, the fortunate part is steel plants continue through this crisis at about 40 to 45% production. And as India went through the longest kind of a lockdown period, and our rates of infections are supposed to go down, I am seeing a future where the steel plants will come up with a better market scenario. So you can be pessimistic or you can be optimistic. I believe Hindustan Zinc has preferred to be on the optimistic side and prepare itself to serve the customers in an optimistic scenario.
And just to add to that, the question around whether there will be a surplus, the fact that situation right now in India and also globally from a demand as well as supply is very fluid. Also the reason why we have decided to defer our guidance. So let some clarity emerge and we would adapt if needed.
Sure, sir. Thank you very much. That's from my side.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Rajesh Lachhani from HSBC. Please go ahead.
Yeah, thanks for the opportunity. So my first question is basically, if you see, we have been hearing that there are issues with demand per se, and also there is an issue with the transportation. So are we seeing a scenario where the plants are running at 80-90%, but the sales are not happening up to that extent, and we are building inventory? So that is my first question.
So when we restarted our operation in April, we clearly had that risk. But at this moment, we are much more confident. We did encounter problem not only on road transport, but also our ability to move goods faster at ports. I think situation is getting better, and we are confident that by the time this quarter ends, by the time this month ends and quarter end, we will go back to normal closing stock levels, and we have a sight to this.
Yeah, but are we currently seeing an increase in the finished goods inventory at our site?
So we did exit higher, and our expectation is by end of this month, things should start to correct itself. By the time we are ending June, we should go back to normal levels. Of course, this becomes a prediction on an assumption that situation continues to improve like it has been for last 2-3 weeks, and that's what we are watching and banking on. But we do see significant improvement versus situation which was in mid-April from a supply chain perspective to where we stand right now. That gives us confidence.
Understood. And sir, has there been some change in the share of exports and domestic during this period? So I believe previously we were selling most of our products in the domestic market, but since the domestic market is under lockdown, has it significantly increased our export share?
Yes. So as of now, since practically domestic market in India is closed, export obviously has gone up. But as I mentioned, April, in the May as a month is significantly better than April. And we are positive that once India completely opens up towards last week of May, situation should start to get normalized from June onwards.
So can you please share the share of exports and domestic earlier, pre-COVID and currently?
So the domestic as a percentage would be about 74% in a pre-COVID scenario. Right now, this would have gone up to close to 70%. The export would have gone up to 70%. But that's just the last 4 weeks. And as you know, India has practically been closed last 4 weeks. We also see this as positive because this also tells us that no matter how long the lockdown continues or industries who are buying zinc from us revive, we will not be saddled with a situation where we are, let's say, we have significant closing stocks of FG because we will have always ability to export.
Understood. And sir, lastly on, given, sir mentioned two scenarios where, the supply could be disrupted more than the demand, and the second scenario is demand disrupted more than supply. So if we are to experience a scenario 2 where the demand significantly lacks supply and there is a pressure on prices, will you plan of reducing your production to adjust to the lower prices and demand?
This is a speculative question. We are also watching very closely how post-COVID scenario emerges. Only thing which I would like you to remind yourself is the cost position resetting. So when demand slows down, prices start to get impacted. There would be supply stoppage from high-cost producer, and that should start to correct itself. But right now, the question is speculation. We are watching as just as you are watching.
Understood. That's it from my side, sir.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, due to time constraints, we'll take the last question from the line of Rahul Jain from Systematix. Please go ahead.
Yeah, thanks for the opportunity. I had one question on mining leases. So we understand that our mines are captive, so we have leases to 2030. Just want to know that if there is a change in that timeline, so what is the typical expiry of our leases?
Expiry of our leases. So our leases have a varying expiry date depending upon the lease that we have. It varies from 2030 to 2049.
Yeah, so if there is a change in timeline, would all of our leases get impacted or only the one which is up to 2030?
So I would say it is still speculative. As of now, all the Ministry of Mines or the changes Honorable Finance Minister announced, this does not find a place.
So we have to then rebid for our own mines, or how will it work?
Sorry, your question was not clear. Can you speak a little louder?
So in a situation of the change in date, when the mines will come up for auction again, would we have to be bidding again for them, or how it will work? I'm trying to understand.
So again, we are in a speculative zone. As of now, we are absolutely confident that this risk doesn't exist for our current mine leases.
Right. So, but can you give the breakup between RA and others? Like when did the time period is?
Sorry, your question was again not clear. You will need to come closer to mic.
No, I'm just saying, for Vita, when is the timeline?
Yeah, what was the question?
What is the timeline? Would you know? I mean, I think that is the largest mine we have. Right?
No, so timeline would emerge, but also, we also have right of first refusal for our existing mines. As I said, it goes into again speculative zone. Right now, we are confident that this does not find place in the risk which you mentioned.
Right. Okay, and also on you said that you will looking to reduce costs. So do you think that the cost reduction more will be for the first half or like the spread throughout the year?
On a normalized operation, the cost reduction should happen gradually. And a lot of foundation has already been built, let's say in Q4 and Q3 of last year. Whether it's on digitization, whether it's on equipment efficiency, The new ones which we are working on is more aggressive manpower optimization and manpower productivity, but also taking advantage of commodity prices softening, which we start to see more and more. You should start to see it in Q1 itself. However, it's a COVID quarter, so we'll have to wait and see.
Right. And sir, also in terms of your production, so you're not giving a guidance, but as we can see that due to be for you would already have seen the first 2 months. Would you have a number of utilization?
Number of utilization. This will continue at the current level, and unless we are really very sure that we are out of this crisis.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, that was the last question for today. I now hand the conference over to Ms. Preeti Dubey for closing comments. Thank you, and over to you, Preeti.
Thank you everyone for joining today's call. I know some of you had difficulties joining in, so in case you have more questions, you can contact me or Abhishek. Thank you.
Sure. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of Hindustan Zinc, that concludes today's conference. Thank you all for joining us, and you may now disconnect your line.
Playback is complete.